Hi everybody, so this is my first theater review, and I don't usually do these because I usually see the show and I'm happy with it and just wanna, don't feel like I need to talk about it. But this one that I saw last night, it's a musical called Love Never Dies, and this is a show I have been waiting nearly a decade to see. And one thing that I love is that it's this show that is connected to my favorite show, Phantom of the Opera, and it was really exciting for me when I learned that they were going to make a sequel. And I didn't know all the details at the time. This was like way back when I was in high school even. I was just thrilled though at the thought that Phantom could have a sequel, that the story could continue. And in a way it did. One thing about Love Never Dies is that you can't 100% connect it to the original Phantom of the Opera. It's supposed to kind of be... It's related, but it's a work on its own. It's basically like fan fiction in a sense. But it is actually based off of a book. The Phantom Goes to Manhattan, or The Phantom of Manhattan, something like that. I'm sorry, I can't remember it. But it is based off of a book. It is supposed to be 10 years after the events of Phantom of the Opera, which, if you guys know the show, doesn't add up entirely with the years that they're set in. So that is why you're not supposed to 100% focus on that. But overall, I have thought that it's a beautiful show. I started listening to the soundtrack when it came out, because it started in London, and all we had was the soundtrack here. And then it went to Australia, and they filmed the production, and we got to see it on YouTube. That was the first time I actually saw it, and I thought it was so beautifully done. I heard that they did a lot of reworking with it, and I definitely thought whatever they reworked worked. Because it was just so beautiful, the design and everything. And because I had seen like some pieces of the London show and it didn't work for me. And I can't entirely judge it because I didn't see the whole thing, but the Australian production, I think they made it work. So we kept hearing that they were going to have a tour in the US, and it never happened. It was year after year, it just wasn't coming. And then finally, it was announced that Love Never Dies was going to tour the US. And so it has. And it finally made it to California, and I got to see it last night. So, basic background here for anybody who hasn't seen the show. The sequel, as we'll call it, is basically the Phantom is now in New York on Coney Island. He has his own establishment, his whole empire, a freak show, all kinds of things. And he basically got these things because he got help from Madame Giry and her daughter Meg, who have bigger roles in this show, actually. And the Phantom's main goal is to bring Christine back into his life. And Christine is still married to Raoul, and they have a son, Gustave. And they're all there, and it just becomes this love triangle again, basically. And just things don't go as they were planned, and all kinds of craziness ensues. Feelings are hurt, and characters are not like you remember them from the original. But overall, it's a very neat piece of theater to actually see how characters can change after a decade, and not just like within the same show, but from one show to another, which we don't get to see too many sequels on Broadway because either they don't make it to Broadway or they're not very successful, the story doesn't work. Stuff like that. But Love Never Dies is kind of its own special thing. Like I said, you can't 100% relate it to the original, which that's my personal favorite. So, I mean, I have some slight complaints about Love Never Dies, especially after seeing it live for the first time. They mainly based it off of the Australian production, which that was more successful, which I think that's a great choice that they did that. They did rework some things for this tour, and some of the changes that they brought in added to the show, actually, which was great. Like, so this is the number I'm going to talk about. Here's the thing. I have a handful of songs that I love from the show. Till I Hear You Sing, beautiful song that they originally had in the middle of Act 1, and it moved up to the top of Act 1. The Phantom song, basically, he's yearning for Christine still, and he wishes she were here. And as I was watching it live, I realized, is it actually 10 years after the events of Love Never Dies? Because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody here, so if you don't want spoilers, end the video now. Okay. Those who want to hear it, if you're still here. So, Christine doesn't make it at the end of Love Never Dies. And it's very sad, very tragic. And the Phantom, like, his whole goal was to be with Christine again. And now he can't. So I wonder if Till I Hear You Sing became a reflection song on the past. Like, after all that happened, he's still yearning for her after death. I don't know if that was the intention, but that was the feeling I was getting when I was watching that number, which, like I said, I don't know if that was intended, but I kind of like the idea. I'm gonna go with it. Either way. But so yeah, I love that number. It's beautiful. It's very Phantom. I love the title song, Love Never Dies. I love Beneath a Moonless Sky. It's so beautiful. Beautifully tragic, as I call it. And then Beauty Underneath. That is one of my favorite songs. One of the songs I fell in love with when I first heard the song, the soundtrack. And so here's the thing. With the tour, I got a surprise when I finally saw that number. It wasn't as it was originally written. I'm trying to calm down here because, like, even my friend, she was with me in the theater, she too loves the song, and I was, like, watching her reaction, and it was like, I could feel the reaction she was having because I was having it too. More on the inside, but so for some reason, and maybe I can understand why they did this, but they changed Beauty Underneath, and in my opinion, not in a good way. So let me see if I can explain this as best as I can. The song begins with basically the Phantom realizing that Gustav is his son. Sorry, another spoiler. And so it's like this very intense moment that builds up. It starts off with Gustav playing the music, and it's so beautiful, it's so serene. And then it gets more intense as the Phantom realizes that Gustav is his son, and it just gets more and more built up, and then rock guitar music and all this craziness ensues. It's so awesome. Like, this was basically like the Phantom of the Opera song in this production, with the whole electric guitar thing and the intensity of the Phantom. It's basically that. So this is a very exciting moment in the show. And it was exciting at the beginning in the tour because they brought in the Phantom of the Opera theme. Gustav starts playing it after he plays his little melody, and the Phantom's like, oh my god, do that again, and he plays it. And it just gets more and more like the original production. He makes Gustav sing like Christine did. And that part was exciting. that was a really neat connection that they did between the two shows. But then they hardly did the guitar. And so they sing the verses, basically the same, but then they get to the chorus, and the music just goes, it went da 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 da. And I was like, where was the crescendo I was waiting for? Because it goes da 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 da, and it goes higher and higher until it goes da da da. Didn't happen. And I was like, why? Like, as they say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Because this is like one of my favorite songs, and I don't know if they were trying to create a different kind of dark mood, because it was still dark, but it didn't have that intensity, that excitement. I didn't feel it, and I didn't understand the lyrics because it was different, and it ruined the moment for me, honestly, and I hate to say that because I don't like to say that about songs, but I just wish they had kept it the same. Now I know what it feels like when people go through this. I was just so disappointed about that number. Because, like I said, it's one of my favorite numbers. It's one of the most Phantom-esque musical numbers in the show. And they actually do a reprise of this in Act 2 during the chase scene near the end. And I thought it worked in that moment with the chorus doing it. But for Gustav and the Phantom, it just didn't do it for me. Because the Phantom has to be excited, like, he's my son. He is actually like me. He's into all these things, and that's why the crescendo happens, because he gets really excited, and Gustav too, because he likes these things and he's seeing these things. It gets exciting and it gets built up more that way. But to just go down and flat just doesn't work with the moment, in my opinion. I mean, this is just my opinion and my friend's opinion. I mean, maybe other people like it, and that's okay. That's fine. I'm sorry. I was just disappointed by it. Because, like I keep saying, I love the song. Okay. Sorry, I had to rant about that because it's been bothering me since last night. Like, my friend and I even listened to the recording of the original soundtrack, and we felt so much better after that. So, I'm guessing they're not going to change it back, so I have to live with it. I love Andrew Lloyd Webber's music. It's just, why do they have to change this one? Okay, I'll get over it. That was one thing I had a problem with. Overall, the show is beautiful. They kept it mostly the same compared to the Australian production, which I love. And just the design, the set design, there were some slight changes and they made it work. Like the whole Coney Island set design is so magnificent. I am so very impressed with it. And the songs are still beautiful. Don't get me wrong, I still love the score. I'll always love the Phantom score more, but Love Never Dies it's pretty close. And I'm always happy that they got rid of certain songs from the original soundtrack, because it didn't fit with the show. And there are some numbers where it feels like it doesn't fit with the show, but you do have to admit that it does fit with the times that they're in. And, like, there's, like, these vaudeville kind of numbers, and vaudeville, maybe. I can't think of the word right now, but it's very turn of the century, which that works in that respect. They're not all Phantom-esque songs, which you just kind of have to go with it. One thing I kind of wish they had brought in was, like, some ballet choreography, like, a way for Meg and Christine to connect again, like, just to see some ballet. Because that's how they were together in the original production. Like, they were ballet buddies, basically. So, just would have been an interesting homage, but it's okay. I honestly don't know where they could have put it, but overall, the choreography is amazing. Costumes are incredible. Just the whole show, it's beautiful. It's a piece of art. And even though it's not like The Phantom entirely, and it's kind of hard to accept how it ends, but I honestly have rethought and rethought how they could end it differently, and I don't see any way where it would have made sense. Unless Christine wanted to be a single mom, because basically these two men are abusive, which we're not entirely happy about, that they made Raoul this drunk, abusive man. And it's a shame, because he was such a sweet guy in the first production. But, well, sometimes in a way that's realistic, though, because sometimes people start out that way, sometimes life gets to them, and they become different people. So in a way, it's kind of a realistic portrayal of how things go. It's not a fun portrayal, but I mean, it kind of worked with the story, so. But either way, I still liked it. It was beautiful. And I'm glad I finally got to see it after all these years. I think I've been waiting like 8.5 to 9 years, and I felt like I was never going to get to see it because they kept teasing us with the tour and it wasn't happening. And then finally it happened, and I was like, thank you. Thank you, Segerstrom Center of the Arts. I am grateful that I got to see this production live, because it's a show I've been anticipating for a long time, and Phantom of the Opera is actually returning next season, so I'm watching it backwards. We see the sequel, and then we see the original. Everything's good. Alright. Well, thank you guys if you made it through this video. Sorry if I ranted for a while. Maybe you guys have the same thoughts, I don't know, but let me know what you guys thought if you've seen it. I mean, I do like it. I love the score, and I think it's, like I said, not the greatest, but it stands on its own, and it's a piece of art. Alright, well, again, thank you guys, and maybe I'll do more theater reviews. We'll see. I have a list of things to see next season, so that'll be fun. Alright, have a good night, good day, whatever time of day it is, and hopefully I'll see you guys later. Alright, bye!